Hello everyone. So Chicago PD season 13 ends on a strangely muted note, delivering a finale that feels less like a major closing chapter and more like just another weekly case. While episode 21 has strong performances, stylish direction, and a few emotionally heavy moments, it never fully captures the urgency or scale viewers usually expect from a season finale. The episode centers almost entirely around Imani and her search for her missing sister Shari. That storyline has been quietly building throughout the season, but the problem is that the show never gave audiences enough time to become deeply attached to Imani before making her the emotional core of a two-part finale. Arian Mandi does strong work with the material, and the character herself isn't the issue. The bigger problem is that the series asks viewers to invest finale level emotion into a character who still feels relatively new to the team. As a result, the R lacks the ensemble energy that usually makes Chicago PD finale memorable. Intelligence technically works the case together, but most of the unit feels pushed into the background while the story focuses almost entirely on Imani, Shari, Voight, and Torres. Earlier finales succeeded because the entire squad had personal stakes in the outcome. Here it often feels like everyone else is simply assisting someone else's storyline. Visually, though, this episode continues one of season's 13 strongest trends. The directing style throughout the year has been far more cinematic and experimental than previous seasons, and the finale keeps that going. Flashbacks to the sister's childhood are beautifully shot, while scenes involving Imani being ambushed in the basement use tense camera work and lighting to create a genuine anxiety. The season as a whole has embraced a more artistic, almost indie drama style, and this episode reflects that creative ambition. The actual case itself, however, becomes increasingly frustrating the longer it unfolds. Imani repeatedly ignores protocol, makes emotional decisions, and continues pushing herself into situations where she clearly shouldn't be leading the investigation. The show frames this as passion and desperation, but it often comes across as reckless. One especially questionable moment involves her removing Shari from a safe location just to show her personal childhood keepsakes at her apartment, a decision that exists mainly because the plot needs danger to escalate. The episode also makes it obvious fairly early that Shari is far more involved in Kirby's crimes than Imani wants to believe. Over the course of the investigation, the story slowly reveals that Shari wasn't simply a victim trapped under Kirby's control. She actively participated in some of the violence and manipulation surrounding him. The reveal that Shari killed her friend Leela herself, not Kirby, is disturbing but not particularly surprising by the time it arrives. What the finale does handle well is the psychology behind trauma bonding. Shari has spent over 2 decades being groomed and manipulated by Kirby since childhood. The show makes it clear that this kind of conditioning fundamentally reshapes a person's identity. Shari doesn't really know who she is outside of Kirby because he has defined her entire existence since she was 6 years old. That theme becomes one of the episode's strongest ideas. Monsters are created, not born. Shari becomes the clearest example of that concept. Kirby took an innocent child and slowly transformed her into someone capable of violence and cruelty. The tragedy for Imani is realizing that the sister she spent her entire life searching for may no longer truly exist in the way she imagined. Ironically, both sisters are trapped by identity. Shari's identity was consumed by Kirby, while Imani's entire life became defined by trying to find Shari. By the end of the episode, both women are left facing uncertain futures and trying to figure out who they are now. The hour's most shocking moments belong to Jason Begg's Hank Void. After spending much of recent season attempting to restrain his inner darker instincts, Void finally snaps while confronting Kirby. The brutal scene where he repeatedly slams Kirby's head into the door feels intentionally excessive and uncomfortable. It's one of the few moments in the finale that genuinely feels explosive, largely because it taps back into the older, more dangerous version of Void longtime fans remember. The seal also reinforces a recurring pattern with Voight's character. Much like his relationship with Erin, Haley, and Anna before, he develops a protective attachment towards Imani that pushes him into emotionally reckless territory. In many ways, the episode suggests that Voight's greatest weakness has always been how personally he invests himself in damaged people he wants to save. By the end, the finale leaves nearly every major outcome unresolved. Shari's future likely involves prison or psychiatric treatment. Imani finally completed the mission that defined her life but now has no clear direction moving forward, and the rest of the team barely receives meaningfully closure at all. That's ultimately why the finale feels underwhelming. It isn't poorly made, and there are genuinely compelling character moments throughout. But for a season ending episode, it lacks momentum, emotional payoff, and the feeling that the entire intelligent unit experienced something transformative together. Instead of ending with a bang, Chicago PD season 13 quietly fades out, stylish, emotionally heavy in parts, but strangely forgotten for a finale. Thank you for watching. Bye.